Dust swirled in the scorching sun as the cowboy, Jake, stood at the edge of the auction. His worn boots scuffed the dirt, his pockets near empty. A struggling rancher, he'd come to town desperate for a horse or tools. The crowd jeered as the auctioneer pushed a figure forward, a Comanche woman, head covered by a sack. $1. The auctioneer barked. Jake's heart clenched. He raised his hand. The crowd fell silent as Jake's dollar was accepted. He didn't know why he bid. Pity, maybe, or something deeper. The woman was led to him, her hands bound, sack hiding her face. Whispers called her a captive, a prize of war. Jake's calloused fingers hesitated as he reached for the rope. He'd never owned a person. This felt wrong, yet he couldn't walk away. He led her to his wagon. They rode in silence, the creak of wheels loud against the desert's hush. Jake glanced at her, the sack swaying slightly. "I ain't your master," he muttered, unsure if she understood. His ranch was failing. Debts piled high, cattle dying. He didn't need another burden, but abandoning her wasn't an option. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows. He stopped the wagon by a dry creek bed. Under the fading light, Jake untied her hands. She didn't move, didn't speak. He reached for the sack, his fingers trembling. "I'm talkin' this off," he said softly. The cloth fell away, revealing sharp, defiant eyes and a face marked by hardship. She was young, maybe 20, with a scar across her cheek. Her gaze pierced him, unafraid. Jake stepped back, struck by her strength, her silence. "What's your name?" he asked, voice low. She didn't answer, her eyes scanning the horizon like a trapped animal. Jake rubbed his neck, unsure. "I'm Jake. Just tryin' to survive, like you." He offered water from his canteen. She took it, drinking slowly, never breaking eye contact. The air felt heavy, charged. He wondered what she'd endured, what had brought her to that auction block. They camped by the creek, a small fire crackling. Jake shared his meager bread. She ate in silence, her movements deliberate. He noticed her hands, calloused, strong, like his. "You don't owe me nothin'," he said, staring at the flames. "I'll take you somewhere safe." Her eyes flicked to him, skeptical. The night stretched on, stars bright above the vast, unforgiving desert. Dawn broke, painting the sky red. Jake hitched the wagon, glancing at her. She sat tall, sack long gone, her dark hair catching the light. He wondered about her people, the Comanche. Stories painted them as fierce, untamed. Yet she seemed more human than the men who'd sold her. "We're headin' to my ranch," he said. "It ain't much." She nodded slightly, her first sign of trust. The ranch came into view, sagging fences, a weathered barn. Jake's heart sank. This was no place for anyone, let alone her. He showed her a corner of the barn to sleep in, but she shook her head, pointing to the open land. "You want the stars?" he asked, half smiling. She nodded again, firmer. For the first time, Jake felt a spark of connection, a shared need for freedom. Days passed, and she began to help, mending fences, tending the few remaining cattle. Jake learned her name, Lona. She spoke little, but her actions were steady, skilled. He watched her work, marveling at her resilience. The ranch felt less empty with her there. Debts still loomed, but Lona's presence brought a strange hope. Jake caught himself smiling, a rare thing these days. One evening, Lona pointed to the horizon, speaking softly in her language. Jake didn't understand, but her tone carried longing. "You're home?" he asked. She nodded, eyes distant. Guilt gnawed at him. He'd saved her from the auction, but was this life any better? He vowed to find a way to help her return to her people, even if it meant losing the one person who'd eased his loneliness. A storm rolled in, thunder shaking the earth. Jake and Lona worked side by side, securing the barn. Rain soaked them, but she laughed, a sharp, bright sound that startled him. He laughed too, the first in years. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world was just them, rain, and the ranch. Jake felt something shift, a warmth he hadn't known since before his world fell apart. The next day, Lona taught Jake to track a stray calf. Her knowledge of the land was vast, her movements precise. He followed, humbled. "You're better at this than me," he admitted. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. They found the calf, and as they led it back, Jake realized he was learning from her. not just about the land, but about survival, about strength in silence. Word of Lona spread to town. Men came, offering to buy her. Jake's temper flared. "She ain't for sale," he shouted, hand on his pistol. Lona stood behind him, her gaze fierce. The men left, but Jake knew trouble was brewing. He turned to her. "You're free here, Lona. Always." Her hand brushed his arm, a fleeting touch that said more than words ever could. Trust was growing. At night, Lona told stories of her people, tales of warriors, stars, and spirits. Jake listened, captivated. Her voice was low, melodic, weaving a world he'd never known. He shared his own story, losing his family, fighting to keep the ranch. Their pasts were different, yet their pain mirrored. Under the stars, they found a fragile bond, two souls scarred but unbowed, leaning on each other. A trader passed through, offering news of Comanche camps nearby. Lona's eyes lit up, then dimmed. "You could go," Jake said, heart heavy. She shook her head, gesturing to the ranch. "This is home now?" he asked, surprised. She nodded, her hand resting on the fence they'd rebuilt together. Jake's chest tightened. For the first time, he dared to imagine a future with her here. Trouble came at dawn. Raiders, likely tipped off by the townsfolk, rode in, demanding Lona. Jake stood firm, rifle in hand. "She stays," he growled. Lona grabbed a pitchfork, standing beside him. The raiders hesitated, outnumbered by their resolve. Shots rang out, but Jake and Lona held their ground. The raiders fled, leaving dust and a newfound respect for the cowboy and his partner. Bloodied but alive, Jake and Lona patched each other's wounds. Her fingers were steady, his shaky. "You didn't have to fight," he said. She met his eyes, fierce. "I chose to." Those words hit him hard. She wasn't just a captive he'd saved. She was a warrior, choosing her place. Jake felt pride, and something deeper. Love, maybe, though he didn't dare name it yet. The ranch began to thrive. Lona's skills brought the land to life. Herbal remedies for cattle, clever irrigation from the creek. Jake worked harder, inspired. They laughed more, shared meals, planned for spring. The townsfolk still whispered, but Jake didn't care. Lona was no longer the woman with the sack on her head. She was his equal, his partner, his reason to keep fighting for the ranch. One night, Lona carved a small wooden horse, handing it to Jake. "For you," she said, her English halting but clear. He turned it over in his hands, moved. "I got nothing to give you," he said. She touched his chest, over his heart. "You gave me freedom." Tears stung his eyes. He realized then that saving her had saved him, too, pulling him from the edge of despair. Winter came, harsh and biting. They huddled by the fire, sharing stories. Lona spoke of her mother, a healer. Jake talked of his dreams, rebuilding the ranch, maybe a family. Her hand found his, their fingers entwining. The cold couldn't touch them. In that moment, Jake knew he loved her, not as a savior, but as a man who'd found his match in a woman stronger than the desert itself. Spring brought new calves, green grass. Lona and Jake worked as one, their rhythm natural. The townsfolk began to trade with them, drawn by Lona's herbs and Jake's grit. The ranch was no longer failing. It was alive, like them. Jake built a small house, not just a barn. "For us," he said, showing Lona. Her smile was answer enough. They were building more than a ranch now, a life. A Comanche rider appeared one day, seeking Lona. "Her brother," he said, searching for her. Jake braced for her to leave, but Lona took his hand. "This is my home," she told the rider. The man nodded, respecting her choice. He left with a promise to return, to trade, to connect their worlds. Jake exhaled, relieved. Lona had chosen him, chosen the ranch, chosen their shared future. The auction faded into memory, a dark beginning to a brighter story. Jake and Lona stood on the porch of their new house, watching the sunset. Her head rested on his shoulder, his arm around her. They'd faced auctions, raiders, and doubt, but together, they were unbreakable. The ranch thrived, a testament to their strength. Jake kissed her forehead, grateful for the dollar that changed everything. Years later, the ranch was a beacon of hope. Lona taught her people's ways, blending them with Jake's. Their children ran through the fields, a mix of cowboy and Comanche blood. The townsfolk no longer whispered, they admired. Jake and Lona had built something rare, a home where two worlds met, where love outlasted hardship. The sack was long gone, replaced by a life of purpose and love. Lona never forgot her roots. She visited her people, bringing Jake. They welcomed him, seeing the man who'd honored her. He learned their ways, just as she'd learned his. The desert, once a place of struggle, became a bridge between cultures. Jake and Lona's love was a quiet revolution, proving that even in the harshest lands, understanding and respect could grow. The wooden horse Lona carved sat on their mantle, a reminder of their bond. Jake added to it, a tiny wooden figure of a woman, strong and free. Lona laughed when she saw it, her eyes shining. They didn't need words to know what they'd built. The ranch, the family, the love, it was all born from a single dollar and a moment of courage, a choice to see beyond the sack. At night, they still sat under the stars, as they had that first night. Lona's hand in Jake's, their children asleep inside. The desert stretched endless before them, but it no longer felt empty. They'd filled it with life, with love, with a story no one could have predicted. The struggling cowboy and the Comanche woman had rewritten their fates, together, against all odds. As the stars burned bright, Jake whispered, "Worth every penny." Lona laughed, her voice carrying across the desert. They didn't know what tomorrow held. More storms, more fights, more joys. But they knew they'd face it side by side. The auction was a distant memory, overshadowed by a love that grew from dust, a love that turned a struggling ranch into a home, forever theirs.